he will have to walk away from the talks.
All right, Gilbert, Doctor, thank you for joining us with your perspective on that story. Meanwhile, efforts to end the Israel-Hamas conflict continue, with some progress reported in talks in Doha. Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman al-Thani has confirmed a bit of progress in discussions aimed at securing a new truce. This follows a meeting between Israel's Mossad chief David Barnea and the Qatari Prime Minister. Let's in fact listen into what the Qatari PM had to say.
About the seriousness of the parties, it's something, honestly, I cannot judge 100% whether they are 100% serious or not. What we have noticed on Thursday is a bit of progress compared to the other meetings. Yet we need to find an answer for the ultimate question: how to end this war. That's basically, I think, the key point of the entire negotiations.
Well, this comes as Hamas officials were in Cairo on Saturday to discuss a ceasefire agreement with Egyptian officials. A Hamas official has said that the group is prepared to accept an agreement that would end the war in Gaza, including a one-time release of all remaining hostages and a 5-year cessation of hostilities. However, Hamas has consistently rejected partial agreements, such as an Israeli proposal earlier this month that offered a 45-day truce in exchange for the return of just 10 living hostages. Hamas insisted that any agreement must guarantee a permanent end to the war, a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, a complete prisoner exchange, and the rapid entry of humanitarian aid into the territory. Talks have stalled since Israel resumed its military campaign in March, following the collapse of a 2-month ceasefire brokered by Qatar, Egypt, and the US. That truce allowed for the release of hostages and Palestinian prisoners and a significant increase in humanitarian aid, but disagreements over the next phase caused it to break down. Hamas has firmly rejected any deal that would require the group to disarm Israel. On the other hand, maintains that it will not agree to any truce that leaves Hamas intact as a fighting force in Gaza. Gaza's health minister, meanwhile, has reported that the death toll from the 18-month-long war has risen to 52,243, with hundreds of missing persons now confirmed dead. Dr. Punsara Amarasinghe is joining us live. He is from Colombo, and of course, he's a professor at the Kotalawala Defense University there. Thank you for being with us today. Let me quickly ask you first, Dr. Amarasinghe, what do you make of these latest talks in Cairo? Any progress expected through them?
Well, actually, the talk is not that successful compared to the Qatari talk, because what happened in Qatar, the meeting between the Qatari Prime Minister and the Chief of Mossad, David Barnea, seems to have indicated there is going to be a slight progress, at least Israelis' willingness. And when it comes to the Cairo's discussion, well, that is something yet to be decided, because the Cairo's discussion comes in the backdrop of the Israelis' rejection, the Hamas rejection of the Israelis, the proposal last time, a couple of weeks ago, when Israel proposed a 45 days ceasefire from Hamas with the condition of Hamas should completely put down its weapon, right? So Hamas simply rejected that as crossing the red line. So that was a disastrous thing. But if you look at these ceasefire proposals in Cairo and also in Qatar, from Egyptian point of view, they have come up with a systematic resolution saying that after the war, after the ceasefire, there should be a mechanism to reconstruct Gaza, which has been completely doomed. And at the same time, and Hamas is needed to hand over the remaining hostages, right? And there is one more condition from this ceasefire proposal, in which Hamas has expected from Israelis to put a closure to all the ground level operations in Gaza, which is highly unlikely. So we have come to a kind of a situation like, a bit between the devil and the deep blue sea. So both parties are demanding a full pound of the flesh from each side, so which comes to a pretty much of a hard end.
Yes, also, Dr. Amarasinghe, this latest statement from the Qatari PM as well after those talks concluded, do they make you bullish?
I think that the Qatari Prime Minister's statement is quite contrary to what was going on in Egypt, right? Because the Qataris, the peace brokers have clearly indicated that Israel, the Egyptian, the plan to restore the peace and the Egyptian proposals are much more impractical compared to what Qataris have demanded. So from a vantage point of view, we can see that the Qataris' demands are very much akin to what Israel and the United States are expecting at the moment. So having said that, we should not forget the fact that this war in Gaza itself has been a tremendous problem for the geopolitical entanglement in the Middle East, especially, forget about Qatar. If you look at the Egyptian border, right? Egypt is the only country that shares border with both Israel and Gaza, the Palestine. So if the problems are likely to be continued in Gaza, there would be a massive influx of the refugees crossing the border through Sinai to Israel, to Egypt. So that will definitely lead to further internal implications within Egyptian politics. That is why Egyptians, especially in Cairo, the policymakers and the bureaucrats and politicians are completely obsessed with intensifying the peace progress in Gaza.
Okay, let me in fact ask you then, Dr. Amarasinghe, about the mediation efforts. Do you believe a short-term truce is likely, or do you believe it's still only possible in the long term?
Well, if you look at the ground reality, I don't see any possibilities existing for a long-term ceasefire agreement or permanent peace as long as both parties would be much more amicable. From the point of view of Hamas, if they are willing to accept the two-state solution, right, as it was manifested in the Oslo Accords when Ben Gurion and Arafat were signing in 1990s, if they are willing, there can be a possibility for going for a long-term solution. But you can see that from every point of view, Hamas has completely rejected the very existence of Israel. So the truce, the proposed by Qatar and Egypt, seems to be a bit of a kind of, appetizer. This is not going to work out in the long term. On the contrary, it will be a not permanent but temporary truce. So this is the factual reality that looms before us.
Dr. Amarasinghe, thank you for joining us on NewsX World with your perspective. Now,